Okay. I think I'm going to forgive myself a bit of a rules break because I hadn't. Oh, God, is this episode 25? It might be. Okay, here's forgiveness number one. If I missed that thing about saying. I missed that thing about the Mandela effect, then it's the next episode. If this is episode 25, I just hadn't looked, and I know I've been chatty today, so it's entirely possible that this or even the previous episode is. My fault if I blew that. I'll try to be more cognizant of those. But I got to do some research for that one, which would make this a good one not to be at 24. If this is 24, that is just, I'll be so happy if this is 24. Regardless, doesn't matter. Because before I forget why I got on again, and a lot of times when I'm doing 3-minute episodes, I'm getting on and saying something and getting off. I mean to get on and say something and then get distracted in the minute and then don't have anything else to say about my distraction, so I sign off. Well, this time I'm here to talk about how one thing my family did not give me was a model of how to live comfortably with the emotional variety of life. My family, let's say emotional intellect, what do they call that? Emotional intelligence? Whatever that pseudo-scientific subjective measurement of how well you can hold back your ability to call Aunt Mimi a bitch, whatever that thing is. Well, my family, although very good at not calling Aunt Mimi a bitch, only did it because we would never say anything about anything of emotional connection. In fact, I know I've told my dad I love him at least once or twice in life, maybe 5 times, maybe 10, but 10's the limit. And I don't think it's 10. It's probably 6. That'll be the end of the chocolate milk. But the point is, that's how emotionally closed off we were as a family. And while I certainly have a slightly more effusive verbal experience in emotional context with my mother, it's not much more. And with my sister, it's very little as well, if not zero. So this is one place that my family is, as I am inclined not to say, unskilled. We are, against this particular onslaught, we are overwhelmed. We do not know how to chink back our armor nicks with filled gaps of understanding. No, we just shut down. And then we shut down more. And so when somebody like me, who's an emotional train wreck, comes along and decides, whoa, I want to cause some clown level activity over here in ring number 3. Well, those of the family who have agreed that that's not how we operate, we just go into stoic silence. Well, they're forced into a very uncomfortable position. As am I, because, being a starfish thrown into a volcano of uncertainty, I wasn't willing to show them that I could be okay without having them throw me life raft and life preserver and then floaty arms and then one of those rubber ducky ring things. I mean, whatever would help, they'd try. But the one thing they wouldn't necessarily do is fall apart emotionally like I would. Too much composure. So what happened? The universe had to teach me that. But how cool is it that in a family full of emotional neophytes, and again, what are my parents going to do? They're going to fill the role of the dutiful parent. For goodness sake, this isn't This isn't something they wanted to do. Society makes this for them. Listen, my parents have both been somewhat diminished by society's limitations for them, but they've also been given a whole lot of exposure. They've truly grown up in a good time. The unfortunate thing is they've also grown up in a diluted time, as have we all. I don't want to pretend that I haven't, but for them it's particularly acute. And so the disconnects they have here kind of in having assumed a role that of the good citizen, let's say, and done the work honorably and with excellence, hasn't always necessarily led to the kind of payoff that I think they deserved. I just think there's a bit of a bill of goods being sold there that doesn't come through, and yet who gives a shit? Like, do you know what'll be the most meaningful thing that can happen to my parents at this point in life? Is connecting with their family in a loving way that shows how much of a genetic fabric we weave together when we cooperate and bring each other elevation. And since I've been the one just literally pulling down all of the emotional baggage I could to force their hands, they all deserve a break, for God's sake, too. If there's anything I can do, it's just be nice, employed, able to keep my lights on and my phone bill paid. That is how low I've set the bar for them. Manage that, and then we can talk about whatever else it is that you think you can get up to out there in the world. But how about we start with you doing that? Well, message received. Hey. Woo. Whew. All right. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Ask all that of me, will you? And so again, I expose these things because nobody's starting with less. Nobody's starting in a position where they've overlooked and been ungrateful toward more gifts than me. And nobody has been given more of a reason to be given up on than the people around me. They should have all given up on me. I gave them plenty of reason to. But I think in the long run, something in the whole formula, including somewhere deep inside of me, I guess, and this is where, no, I'm not even going to go there. This makes me sound like I'm some sort of messiah. But that is not at all what I meant. I'm just glad that for some of the endurance tests it seemed like we had to go through to be able to come out a better group, that we're finally starting to emerge. And I still have a ton of work to do. I am just able to not be the soiled participant that has to be left outside the back door whenever there's a family gathering, so as not to contaminate the room full of honorable existence. And while that's serious hyperbole and terrible metaphor, let's just call that 40% fair. And yet, in some regards, 100% fair. But so is it true of my mother. So is it true of my aunt, I'm sure. Nobody can come to a family event without at least enough soiled laundry that 5% of them might be left outside the door. So what? So 40% of me should have been left outside the door? 60%? 80%? Okay, I'll give you whatever sliding scale you want there. But what if I can just start bringing 90% of the person I always should have been? I'm always going to be 10% of a fuck up. But 10% is pretty allowable. 15%, 18%, 22%. These are gaps that are all fillable. 60%, I don't know. You're asking a lot. And when you start asking for more than you're giving, then you're asking people to gap out. Well, how long are you going to ask them to do that? A decade? 2, 3? Seriously, how long are you going to ask people to do that? When do they finally just give up on you? Well, that's the kind of karmic retribution I owe the universe. I'll never be square with my folks. They've given me too much. But that's what parents do. They give their kids more than they can possibly give back. But I'll always be there for them. They'll never have to wonder about somebody being there to support them. I am 100% going to move into the basement of whichever one of them is unlucky enough to be the Dan or the Ann or whichever one it is in the red fern growing. But wouldn't that be weird? I'll bet they, if ever there was a couple that could see their demise in hours of the same day, I wouldn't be shocked by those two. They have really got some sort of commitment, strong fiber that they have woven together that is just, if it's not timeless, then I don't know what is. And I think here at the last couple family gatherings, I've seen them at peace with each other for the first time in a while. And I know that means that they're starting to trust that I'm okay again. And I hope they both know that of all the things that I ever have given them ridiculously on various days as gifts, I did want to try to give them back the love that they missed out on each other, because, like I've always told them, they're two of the greatest people I know.